How do you think this happened? I mean, we're going to have to tell them something, right?
Cliff! Blood. Where are we gonna get the blood?
I've seen vampires in movies for as long as I can remember. Fangs, blood, coffins, basically creatures of the night that stalk their prey in moonlit shadows. They are always seen as monsters and ultimately evil. Whether it's Dracula, Akasha, Lestat, the message is usually the same. Vampires are cursed, dangerous, and beyond saving. Afflicted 2013 changes the narrative. In this film, Derek wasn't just a vampire. He was a person who was trying to hold on onto his humanity as long as he could, while his body turned into something unrecognizable. Suddenly, vampirism didn't look like a curse. It looked like a battle within their inner self. Derek literally becomes the afflicted one. Afflicted 2013 is about two best friends named Derek and Cliff who embark on a global journey to document their adventures for a travel web series. Derek, who is the main protagonist we follow in this film, was recently diagnosed with a life-threatening brain condition. He views the trip as a way to live life to the fullest before his condition got any worse day by day. However, after a mysterious encounter in Paris, Derek began to show alarming symptoms that weren't normal, like sensitivity to sunlight, disgust for food, and superhuman abilities. As his condition started to get worse, the friends realized he was transforming into a vampire. As Derek fights to control his urges and uncover the truth about his new condition, his journey turns into a difficult one, through coming to terms with his new identity and the monster that now lives within him. Before we dive deeper, let's take a moment to meet the film's main characters and unpack the fate that awaits them by the end. Let's first start off with Cliff, the best friend of Derek. He was outgoing, energetic, and was the driving force behind the travel documentary that him and Derek were planning to do for a whole year. Cliff was often behind the camera, capturing Derek's transformation firsthand. His biggest trait was his loyalty, even when things became terrifying. As Derek's condition started to get worse by the day, Cliff is torn between helping his friend Derek and fearing for his life. He was the emotional anchor of the story, a regular guy caught in a nightmare, doing everything he can to hold on to the friend who was slipping away into darkness. And now, let's speak about Derek, the person that becomes afflicted. He was thoughtful, reserved, and quietly adventurous. Again, he was dealing with a life-threatening brain condition, which motivated him to travel the world with his best friend Cliff and live life to the fullest. After having a mysterious encounter in Paris with a woman named Audrey, Derek began to change by developing supernatural strength, speed, and an insatiable thirst for blood. He tried to resist the violent urges that came with his transformation. His inner struggle was not with the changes happening to his body, but with staying human in the face of becoming something monstrous. Derek represented the tragic figure, the man fighting to retain control, his morals, and his identity, while surrendering to something he didn't quite understand. Unfortunately, Cliff dies tragically at the hands of his best friend Derek. Derek's vampiric transformation intensifies, and he became more unstable and dangerous. Cliff, in his final moments of his life, was trying to help Derek and to document the process, but was eventually attacked and killed by him, not because he wanted to, but because he couldn't control his urge for bloodlust no longer, or so he thought. According to vampire lore, a human fully transforms into a vampire after feeding on another human for the first time, and this lore is not any different here. It was one of the most emotionally devastating moments in the movie because Cliff was Derek's best friend and his support system through the whole journey. His death marked the point of no return for Derek, and it shattered any hope of reversing this new condition. Since Cliff was now gone, Derek needed to track Audrey, the woman in Paris who turned him into a vampire in the first place. When Derek finally tracks her down later in the film, she reveals several important things about his new condition and how he can survive. Audrey first made it clear to him that there's no cure. What has happened to Derek was irreversible. Audrey told him that feeding on human blood was necessary, or else he would have lost control of himself and he would be the same monster again, like the one that fed on his friend. Oh, and by the way, Derek was immortal and wasn't able to die. Even shooting himself on the mouth with a shotgun didn't do anything to him. He just regenerated again and again. The most important part of the conversation that Derek took to heart was that Derek still had the choice on whom he wants to feed on. She herself seemed to live under a certain code, and by the end of the film, Derek adopts a similar philosophy, choosing to only prey on those he sees as deserving, for example, like criminals. This suggests, even as a vampire, some morality and humanity still lived inside him. The reason why Audrey turned Derek into a vampire was because Derek was already dying from his brain condition. She thought that biting him but not completely eating him would give him another chance at life, but this time as a vampire instead of a normal human being. She never meant to turn him on purpose into a creature of the night, only to just help fix his brain condition. Afflicted challenges nearly every traditional idea we've come to associate with vampires. Instead of seductive immortals or ancient monsters, it gives us Derek, a regular guy whose transformation feels more like a disease than a gift. Through its found footage style, the film turns vampirism into a personal and intense experience, pulling us deep into Derek's unraveling journey. The audience didn't see a villain, they see a person terrified of losing his humanity. Unlike the classic vampire stories where the transformation turns a character into a predator or antagonist, Afflicted asks, what if the monster still had a conscience? Derek fights against his urges. He tries not to kill, but when he did kill, he felt guilty for killing his friend, and also when he was trying to save a police officer doing his job, hanging from the rooftop, but wasn't able to at the end. He was seeking for answers, not power, and even though he accepted what he's become, he chose to live with some sense of morality. That's how the movie Afflicted made us rethink vampires, not as monsters to fear, but as people struggling not to become one.